Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to celebrate India's record-breaking performance at the World School Debating Championship in 2018. My name is Anirudh. I was on the team in 2015 and later in 2016, and it is amazing to celebrate the fact that we've had our best performance at the World School Debating Championship ever, and we're probably celebrating the biggest achievement for Indian debating possibly ever, but most definitely at the school level. So this year, we've managed to, after 8 preliminary rounds, we finished second amongst 68 countries in the preliminary rounds, our best ever performance. In the elimination rounds, we've managed to make it all the way up to the finals, losing narrowly in a 5-4 split to Team China. The first time we've had 2 English as a second language teams in the finals ever performing against each other. On top of this, Janjay Ashok was the best speaker in the world. The first time we've had an English as second language speaker there. And on top of this, 3 of our 5 team members were in the top 20 speakers in the world. Another first for us. Getting to this point hasn't been easy. It's been a 10-year roller coaster ride where we've had a lot of joyous victories, but also heartbreaking losses from time to time. But along this way, we've had tons and tons of hard work put in, and I want to welcome you all to celebrate this hard work. So before we begin introducing everyone and everyone starts to speak, we're first going to have a small presentation for you that describes how we got here, the history of ISDS, and what we've done in the last 10 years that's gotten us up to this point. And to do that, I'm going to invite Varshini and Sachit. So Varshini was one of the coaches for the team this year. Sachit is an alumni who was on the team in 2013, and they're going to be talking to you about the history of ISDS right now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Varshini, and I have been involved with the Indian Schools Debating Society since 2008, which is in fact the first year that we ever sent a team to the World Schools Debating Championships. Unlike now, I was a baby then. I debated on the team the very first year, and I've been coaching the team since 2014, and I will quickly take you through what it is that we've done over the years as the Indian Schools Debating Society. So, and I'm right there, being my tiny little self. So, the Ramco Group of companies are incredibly passionate and invested donors. Started up in 2008, the Indian Schools Debating Society. It's a non-profit, and we aim to take competitive debating, critical thinking, and dynamic thinking to students in schools across the country. In 2008, when we first started out, a mere 5 schools came together in Chennai because Mrs. Raja wanted us to debate at the world level. And at that time, we were very, very small. But what we are now, where we've got the assistance of the best debaters across the world and in India, we reach out to more than 200 schools and 1,000 students all across the country, and we're present in 10 cities. And that's the scale of expansion that has occurred over the last 10 years. In addition to working with students, something that we find very close to our heart and very important is working with teachers. So we do teacher training programs in all the cities that we operate in, because we think it's not just important for students to debate in debating tournaments or competitively debate, but also inculcate the spirit of debating in school curriculum. So we consistently work with teachers to build capacity, set up debating clubs, and also work through how we can put debating into our English and social studies curriculum when we teach students. So what have we done in terms of competitive debating in the past 10 years? The World Schools Debating Championship is the flagship tournament that we select and send students to. So this is the most competitive and most prestigious debating tournament in the world for high school students, and we have been sending Team India to this tournament since 2008. So this has been happening year on year, meaning over the last 10 years, what we have been able to do, in addition to develop relationships with some of the best international debaters, has also been to develop a network of alumni that currently run this organization and volunteer their time, not just to coach students who are on the team, but also to run selections, work with teachers, and set up debating clubs across the country. So what does our participation look like? How have our results evolved over these last 10 years? From 2008 to 2018, we have sent kids to a series of debating tournaments. Apart from the World Schools Debating Championships, we've also participated in the International Competition for Young Debaters, the Asia World Schools Debating Championship, the Russell McVeigh International Debating Tournament in New Zealand, and those are a few of the tournaments that we've sent kids to across the world. We've also started sending students to university-run debating tournaments in India, like the National Law Schools Debating Tournament quite recently. That's a quick list of where all we have traveled the world in the last 10 years. And what does the selection process to send a national team look like? So we reach out to students in 10 cities through a very, very rigorous process. We first work with teachers to workshop them to understand the World Schools debating format. We work with them to learn how to judge and adjudicate debates in the World Schools format, which is a very unique and very different format from the ones we usually see kids debating in. After which, we run tournaments that the teachers themselves judge the students in, and then we select the top 10 students in each of these tournaments, work with them for another few days, and then select the top 3 to 4 students from each of these cities to come to a national camp that we run in Chennai in December or January. So by the end of the first section of your academic year, the national camp is hosted in Chennai with about 54 students from all over the country. First from the tournaments we run in different cities, but second also from an online track for students in those cities who can't access the tournament. So we do not go to a city to run a tournament. Those are cities where we encourage students to apply online. The online application process is rigorous. They're supposed to submit a quiz, a video task, and then their debating CVs, and we use all these to select the top 6 kids from over 400 applications that we get online and finally bring them down to Chennai in December. At the national camp, which is a 6-day long period, we've got 54 kids who are doing so much work that it's unimaginable. We get them to be at debating workshops where we teach them how to debate. We put them through content lectures in international relations, in law. We give them quizzes that are set by, as someone once said, a Rhodes Scholar, meaning that's a quiz that most of us find hard to take, but the kids somehow excel at all these things. And finally, we also watch them in a series of debates and prep times to understand how they work together, how much they've grown over these 6 days, and what they can show us at the end of it. Finally, we select 3 teams. The national squad that travels to the World Debating Championship, but because development is so important to us, we also select 2 other teams that are comprised of younger members that we treat as development squads that we send to other international debating tournaments that we use to build up for our teams in the future so that we're not just focused on our team this year, but that we're also very forward-looking. This is our incredible Indian squad for 2018. We had 3 teams, Team India Orange, Team India White, and Team India Green. Team India Orange, that is the team that went to the World Championship, is sitting by you right there. Team India White and Team India Green participated in a competition in Singapore, were also given 4 months of rigorous training. And we're hoping that some of them make appearances in next year's team, so we have that right and keep developing students as we go on. So that is Team India Orange, the team that traveled to Croatia. And this is what our preliminary rounds look like. Out of the 8 preliminary rounds, we won 7 of them. And might I point out, including one that we beat China on, so that's a little bit of getting back at them before they could get us in the final. These rounds had topics varying from what it means to have a narrative of motherhood that is rewarding, to things like what does a school voucher system look like and whether we should support it or not, to things like how we feel about the One Belt and One Road initiative, which is China's most recent set of infrastructure investments across the world, to things like how we feel about a call-out culture. The topics were incredibly complex, and it was wonderful to see the kids excel at each and every one of them, round after round. There wasn't a round that wasn't a pleasure to watch them in. And we finally make it to the Octo Finals, breaking second out of the 68 countries that were present. We debated Romania in the Octo Final on the topic that we prefer a world with no belief in the afterlife. And that was a resounding victory for India, 5-0, on what was an incredibly engaging and close debate. This was followed by a quarterfinal performance against Bangladesh, which was very personal to us in many ways. We enjoyed debating what is a neighbor, a circuit that we have great connections and relationships with, that we often engage in debating with in our own university debating circuit. The topic lent itself to an incredible debate because it was one about developing countries, something that both India and Bangladesh happen to be, as well as something that we were able to speak about with great knowledge. And we won that debate 6-1, taking us to the semi-final, which in of itself became India's best performance, given that our performance last year has been the best so far, and we made the quarterfinal last year. This debate has a bit of history to it. So we beat Singapore in the semi-final. That's the team that knocked us out in the quarterfinal last year. So that was a bit of payback. On the topic that rehabilitation should be the only consideration in criminal sentencing, I must point out, however, that it was such a close round. We beat them 4-3 and advanced to the grand final. The grand final topic that this House believes that the West should end all arms sales and military cooperation with Saudi Arabia was possibly the most complex topic at the tournament, fitting for a final. It was about almost everything in the world that you can think of, encompassed all countries, all international organizations, talked about a range of things starting from terrorism to what life looked like for people on the ground in Saudi Arabia and Yemen. And it was an incredibly engaging and a spectacular debate. We did lose on a razor-thin margin, 5-4, but I guess there are no losers at that point of the tournament once we get to the grand final, when you have an audience of 600 people cheering for you, chanting for you to win. I don't think there has been a better experience than that one in all our debating in the last 10 years. So that is us breaking so many records at WSDC 2018. Apart from being in the grand final itself, we had Dhananjay, who, as has been mentioned already, was the best speaker in the world. Hemant and Tejas not only ranked in the top 10 ESL speakers, they also ranked in the top 20 speakers in the world. And I think this would be the right time for me to mention that Tejas has 2 more potential years of debating. And if he is in the top 10 this year, I can only imagine him breaking the tab next year if he's back with us. Thank you so much. That is what we had for you in terms of our history and how far we've come from when we started off from that very first picture where I was a baby. And over back to Sachit and Anirudh to take you through the rest of